Okay, I think we're good.
All right, so just as a brief announcement, we are waiting 5 more minutes for arrival of an additional member so that we have quorum to start this committee meeting. I wanted to open the live stream so people are not wondering why nothing is showing up, and wanted to hand the floor to the public if there are any questions, comments for the record while we wait. And as soon as Trustee Douglas arrives, we'll be beginning the meeting and we'll go into today's agenda. Thank you.
Questions or comments? I mean, I have something to say. I would like, with our restaffing that's going to be happening for when we're doing our annuals, to start putting in verbiage for when we actually go virtual into children's IEPs, because not everything is easy to carry over when the kids are virtual. But this year, like, we closed due to the snow and did some virtual days. And then in a recent posting by Mr. Plunkett, he said if the heat got too hot, we might go virtual. So we really didn't need those virtual things in there previously once we got back from COVID. And now I kind of feel like, because we're looking at situations where our current leadership is looking at doing that model, it would be helpful to parents to have some sort of base of knowing what their support is going to be at home. And I think it would make them feel more secure too.
Yep. I think that's a really good question, because we've had several parents reach out to the board and say, look, my student has extra time, or my student has reading test questions, or my student has redirection, and that's not really being effectively provided over Zoom. It may be that, that's a hard thing to do and we have to figure out another solution.
I think it also helps gives the teachers and the staff guidance in how to meet a child's IEP when we're virtual like that. And although we've been lucky, there's nothing to say that we might not get hit by a large snowstorm this upcoming year, or we might hit a heat streak, and that might end up being a situation where they do have to close the buildings because of the AC compliances within New York State. I think it's a good way to cover ourselves and make parents and children feel comfortable and get the needs that they're entitled to.
I think that makes sense.
Can I ask you a question from your perspective of having students at home? What do you think would have helped?
A lot of feedback that I got, and I can even speak to it of myself, like having somebody have a reader for their test and things of that nature was like a big thing. Like, so they were getting questions and assignments, and those things weren't, or where you get repeated instruction and those types of things. Those things were not happening when we were virtual. For
And there
a
were
lot of
tests
people's
given?
Tests, when they were doing assignments, they would say break out into the side, and they would start to do there was not the repeated instructions for a lot of the kiddos, those types of things. So I think having something said, like, this is how we'll address this, like either email the teacher later, we'll do this on the side, this is how we're going to work homework or things like that. A lot of that type of stuff fell through, and then also like extended times and things like that didn't really work because because like they were out of their realm.
Hi, kids.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Welcome. How are you?
Good. So with that, we now have a quorum, and we will call to order the May 26, 2009 meeting of the Special Education Support Services and Wellness Committee of the Carmel Central School District Board of Education. Tonight we have, our focus for the agenda is going to be on some of the follow-ups from last week when we were talking about Best Buddies and what are the hurdles to providing the equivalent of Best Buddies program in all 3 elementary schools, and have that closely integrated with how we handle this at the middle school and the high school. So we had we're having an informal conversation before we began, but if there's any further public comment, now's the time.
So one other comment related to fencing. So we've been doing some work on the Kent campuses here and just kind of looking at where we can help with containing autism elopement issues that have happened in the past. Right now, there's some broken areas of fencing that go beyond the wooded area. There's also like a hill dip. So staff have trouble keeping sight on all kids at all times. It also goes across, so a kid can literally go from Kent Primary all the way across our campus, across Kent Elementary, and go towards the bus depot. My child did it, so I know it can be done. And so trying to figure out where we can get funding for that, and what strategies, what makes the most sense as far as getting that fencing in to help with multiple issues, and not just even like autistic children, but sure, kids should be in the sight of staff at all times, and there's a lot of opportunities for kids to sort of get out of the line of sight on the Kent Primary campus. So we've been kind of working towards trying to figure out how to kind of address those.
It's funny you say that. Years ago, I had a friend visiting from Australia, and I showed her where my children went to school, and she looked and she said, "Where are the fences?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And so, just a different perspective.
Yeah, especially when you have like a very busy road here and stuff. It's and then you get an email like last week where we've got some security things going on and stuff. So it's I think something that really is important needs to happen.
I mean, as long as I've lived here, at least once a year, we've gotten a warning that a bear had wandered onto the campus.
We had a coyote this year. Yeah. I mean, coyotes can jump the fence, but hopefully they would slow down.
Slightly deter.
Oh yeah, exactly. Keep walking.
So with that, over to you guys.
Okay.
And we had several questions around best buddies that you guys are.
So good evening. My name is Jenna Racka, Director of PPS.
And Alex Chasky, Assistant Director of PPS.
And so we are going through Best Buddies again, the elementary edition. And so an overview of Best Buddies. At the elementary level, the Best Buddies program is a school-based friendship program designed to promote social inclusion and reduce isolation for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the goals are to foster meaningful, inclusive relationships, empathy, acceptance, social emotional learning, and a welcoming environment, just to give a little background. We here at Carmel Central School District already have 2 established Best Buddy chapters at the middle school and the high school. And we hosted our first Best Buddies Friendship Walk last year and again this past May. And we with the support of our outstanding SEPTO. So, one of the questions that was brought up is how is Best Buddies contractually managed at all schools? And so,
Again, our middle and high school are the 2 areas that have the official Best Buddies program, and that is what we are looking to bring to all 3 elementary schools. Each elementary school would need to have its own chapter, so that is kind of that first step, getting the schools to participate and apply for those charters.
So we have our 26-27 elementary Best Buddies implementation. We reached out to our Hudson Valley constituents at Best Buddy, and they provided us with some great information. We would need 1 to 2 staff members to serve as advisors for each school.
We would need an agreement form for each elementary school that's activating a chapter. In addition to those 1 to 2 staff members, what we have currently in place at the middle and high school level is 1 teacher is stipend for in each respective program and 1 teaching assistant. So again, that's about 2 staff members for the program at middle, 2 staff members for the program at the high school, so that would kind of be what we would be looking to replicate at each of the elementary buildings.
So there's 1 to 2 at the high school, 1 to 2 at the middle school, and we look at 1 to 2 at each elementary school.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially an additional 6 individuals.
And I think in reflecting on it, when Alex and I went to the dance in March, I think that there were more members there actually because Christine Molino and Maureen Lebanowski co-chair, and then they have me. So I believe they 2 teachers and they have 1 teaching assistant. So they obviously recommended to be best at the beginning of the year for it, and there is no cost to open a chapter, and it's free of charge for students to join.
So as we look towards membership, every student that participates is required to complete a Best Buddies membership application. It covers Best Buddies general liability insurance, so we got some of that information.
Yeah, and it's a basic application form
yeah.
that had, name, emergency contact
Right.
and so forth, just essentially giving
Yeah.
the consent.
And again, right, gives like every child's legal guardian the opportunity to grant consent for their student or child to join. And then the advisors also get access to use of the online portal, Best Buddies 360.
So the Best Buddies 360 is really like the hub of the Best Buddies program and the onboarding. And that is what I think helps to distinguish friendship groups from Best Buddies. And in the portal, they review and submit member updates. That's where they review their matches, go over events, and historical data. How we're growing, what's changing, how many kids are involved. So then we have training and onboarding.
So there is in-depth training opportunities on Best Buddies 360. They highly suggest and recommend that memberships are completed by November 1st. And they do offer virtual training for the advisors like one time each year, either in August or September. So we can kind of pull our staff to see when we would like to do that. All advisors must complete the leadership application each year that they're going to be participating in that.
And then they provided us with recommendations, which we are familiar with, that they meet once a month, that the emphasis is on inclusive club designed for all students. The Best Buddies require regular communication with the local staff throughout the year, and then the end of the year, they report by June 1st, outlining the chapter wins, the challenges, as well as the goals. The Hudson Valley region and our contact said that they are starting to plan and host monthly community events, and they were ecstatic to hear that we were looking into an elementary program. So the additional questions that were raised at the last meeting: is there a stipend in the CTA contract for Best Buddies? We do have one. It's paid through the IDA 611 grant, and there it is right now. This was the data we've gotten today for the 2 teachers as well as the 2 teaching assistant stipends.
And they said that's per stipend.
I don't think so. I think it is. So 2 teacher stipends is that almost $2,500 cost. So it's both combined. And then again, I think too we would need to confirm, but I think to Jen's point that the high school chapter has 2 advisors. I believe if they would like to co-chair, they kind of agree to split. I
Right.
think,
Yeah,
the
that's how
stipend,
stipends work.
So again, it would be the one stipend around $1,200 to $1,300 per chair, and then you can kind of pull how they want to run that.
So then one of the other questions was, is there a need to change the budget for September? And prior to the start of the meeting, Mr. Plotkin popped in and said he'd like to talk after the meeting, and he was in full support. And is a September implementation for all schools feasible, and roadmap of district-wide rollout? So in regard to the implementation, that kind of brings us to, as well as the roadmap, there's the application. We need to meet with the elementary principals to just say, this is the deal, this is where we are, this is the information we have, this is what's already been done, and this is what we would like to do. We need to obviously
Talk to the staff.
recruit, and then coordinate with Best Buddies of Hudson Valley.
And so in terms of kind of those next steps, our contact, Jen did reach out, again to make sure that we can set up a virtual meeting with all the administrators, so definitely, the 2 of us, the elementary principals that would need to be involved in that. So we're already in the works of kind of solidifying a date to be able to secure that. From our communication so far, it's definitely, I think with the right support from our buildings, the Best Buddies program definitely thinks it's feasible for us to be doing this work now and start in September.
Okay, so the important milestone, it sounds like, is by the principals, which again, this is more a tell than an ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
And
very
I
important.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't expect any issue with that
Anyone,
in any
yeah.
case. And then there being an available teacher and available PA in each building.
And I suspect that also is something that is definitely feasible, just because folks are trying to do it in their own fashion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
So, so as we mentioned, we're setting up the Zoom with the administration and the Best Buddies affiliate, and we'll go from there to whether it's posting and or asking anybody that's interested and getting the roadmap of what it will look like. Any other questions?
Is this gonna be something that if we get up and running going forward, you'll bring up to parents within their annual
Absolutely.
reviews and when they're, or even a kid that might be in the MTSS process where it looks like they need more support until they get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a good conversation, like you said, to have during annuals. I think it's also a really good conversation to, again, once everything is up and running, to educate also our building level staff on our principals, our school psychologists, because sometimes they are those like frontline people that field those phone calls first before it even gets to, Jen or I. So again, kind of having those conversations, if this is something that we can,
that makes sense.
Something we were talking about just recently, we were talking about, I know you're looking at what you're talking about, but you'll know what I'm talking about. We were talking at Administrative Council about our retreat this summer, and we were debriefing afterwards, and Alex said, I really think it would be helpful if we, as a PPS department, presented at the Administrative Council, just to kind of give an overview of what it's like, what happens, the nuances of it, sometimes the struggles that families go through that maybe folks are just not aware of, but also the opportunities, and in a way also to help educate our staff as well. So that is something that we've been talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, 2 more questions. You mentioned the existing stipends are part of our IDA grant.
Correct.
yes.
Is that something we expect would extend to the new stipends, or?
So it would definitely be something that we would look to incorporate, because you do need to, we need to adjust that 611 grant every year, and it kind of, you can at times, depending on how many of the funds you use, you can adjust it throughout the year as well. So I think that
Like an
for,
amendment for an IEP.
right, yeah. So I think for us, that's like kind of really looking at what is already allocated for in that grant, how much space is left, and then that's kind of, I think, the whole point when we would speak with Mr. Lumpkin and say, okay, we can allocate for X amount of stipend positions within the 611 grant, and maybe we need, to fund as a district just 1 or 2 quarters, But I think those are the pieces we need to look at.
And if we, thinking of where this fully district funded, it sounds like there's $3,600 per building in stipends. Times 3 is slightly over 10,000. So that would be the sort of maximum budget impact here, or are there additional costs in the program?
I think that is something that we would probably speak more with Maureen Lebanowski and Christine Polino, because I know that when we went to that dance in March, we were, we were shaking her down and asking her, how did you get, how did you pay for this? Where's this coming from? And
Right, I mean,
as we mentioned, there were donations and so forth. So they have established relationships that I think that we could probably build upon.
right, and once up and running, there is a club budget, there's an activity budget in each building, so those would be accessible.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we solve the chicken egg problem of being able to afford getting it running so that we can register it as a club. So we can, get those funds.
What would be the vetting process?
That the principal allocates.
What's the vetting process for maybe like the general ed student inclusion in this? I know that in this building, Cass, they have what is it called, a big buddy program or just the buddy program, and there's like a pretty extensive vetting process that the teachers do on the Big Buddy side, and then making sure that that Big Buddy side also is receiving some level of training or education when interacting with the other child or children. What would that be something that this organization helps guide us through?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. I know from my own experience, my own couple of my children participated, and it was, it was a commitment.
Yeah.
It was a responsibility, and it was a follow-through act.
And that's part of what is included in that Best Buddies 360, those virtual training. It's not just for the, like, there's the, once a year training for the adults and leadership members, but then there are virtual training opportunities for everyone to take part in. Again, you do have to apply and fill out the membership and all of that, so that's part of that whole thing.
Yeah, they talked about it in the application, and I think it was background. It wasn't like a background check, but it was a background like questionnaire. Just I think to let the students know that this is a responsibility, and that it's an honor, and it's something that you need to take seriously. So.
So when would this be running? After school?
That's another point.
Yeah.
They say whenever it's convenient for the particular.
Building and advisors.
So it could be before, during, or after, depending upon.
So would that stipend go to just the people running it, or would it go to the teachers and staff as well that do it? If you do it during the day, say, would it be like a pull out of the classes or pushed in?
I would think, and I mean, we can certainly find out what other folks are doing, but I would think that it would be on down periods when there's not other teaching responsibilities.
Because I know I've had somebody before that tried it. Like we're thinking about doing it during elementary, but it didn't work because it was after school, and a lot of those kids require one-to-ones
Sure.
more so than middle or high school.
Okay.
So then when they figured out the stipend and the money, they didn't think about how much it would actually be. Giuliani requires a one-to-one right after school from the minute she's done to the minute that program is done. So that would be an initial, fee that you would have to pay for somebody to watch.
I wonder though too if it would be included in the IEP or CISA for after school activities.
Right, but that would still be on the district-wise, money-wise.
Right. But in principle, that's money that should be allocated
Anyway,
there are
yeah.
other funds. in there
Right,
that
right.
just
Right.
like-
Because I mean, I think to your point, like we definitely do that going towards that middle and high school
Yeah.
level, adding whether it be a TA or a CISA to students for access to after school activities. So that
Right.
is kind of something that already is widely
Yeah, it's
budgeted
utilized.
for
Right.
and
And-
thought
and
about.
We haven't always succeeded in scheduling, right?
Right.
We're so.
Yeah, because it's not really in elementary, they don't really have any after-school
Right.
anything.
That's true.
So then you'd be busing, which is great if you can do it, just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, it's,
Yeah.
and that's where our folks that are running the chapters now come into play because they lived it.
Yeah.
Right, we should see what the friendship clubs we have already are doing. We should see whether it's done in other schools and maybe that's a lunch, a special lunch
Yeah.
area or something like that. I don't know.
The schools that we know that have these programs currently, are they busing or non-busing districts or combination? The non-busing district in transportation
Is a non-issue, yeah.
busing issue.
I think we would have to delve a little bit deeper to find out specifically at an elementary age schools that are doing it, because I think for middle and high school they tend to have late buses. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of that. Whereas again, we typically don't at an elementary age, but it is something I think that we can either look into that or.
But even within that, just speaking to a parent that had a kid that took a modified bus, a lot of times the parents are asked to sign a waiver and then just have an aide on the bigger bus with your kid when your kid's in after school activity. We really don't do the smaller buses for the clubs and sports at the high school. And even when your kid has an IEP that they're doing sports and whatnot, you again have to sign that the aide is going on the larger bus with your kid and is responsible for watching your kid when your kid's on the bus. if your kid in their IEP has a small bus, but they're taking the big bus to go to those sports events.
And then the other thing to just be aware of, but if there is a late bus, there are fewer runs,
Yeah.
so the ride can be very, very long.
Well, and I think the thing to keep in mind as we really are planning again for what time of the day this is being executed at an elementary level, is remembering that these are our youngest babies, right? And they have a long day, right? So keeping them here till
Yeah.
4 o'clock,
Right,
it's
and-
late for them.
and
You
that's-
know,
Like
so
what Tess is doing right now is within the school day, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so they
what I
do
remember.
it, there's 2 different groups of buddies that come in that are in 4th grade that visit the PACE programs. One group does it on Tuesdays, one group does it on Thursdays. And they come in for half an hour, 40, whatever it happens to be. It's during class time, but it's a learning experience. So they're helping the kids learn math or reading or,
They do like an
playtime,
art project
interactive. They do
sometimes.
art projects, sometimes if it's in art. But it's during the time that they can break in. And then during recess. So then they tell them it's part of it is that you invite them to play in, if you'd like to try this and incorporating them into different games and things like that. So it is during the day, but it's more in the classroom.
Is it
So-
only for the kids students?
We-
Are those
yes.
the only kids that?
Yes.
So that will
That-
Presumably
that will
be
not
different.
be
Yeah.
if we
So-
get into
so
best buddies,
I
because that's
think-
for all children.
Right,
Yes.
right. So we tried to bring it to Matthew Patterson, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
We visited them and had a big meeting, and they were going to try to do it in January, and then it just didn't.
Was the administration involved?
They were. That's what the meeting was with. But they, I don't know if they didn't have staff that wanted to. I don't know. They didn't tell me their real reasoning behind it per se, but it never came to me. So we were trying to incorporate it. So the PACE program uses it as part of their actual programming, which is great because it's life skills and different things, but it should be for all.
Yeah.
Aside from,
What class you're in?
yes, exactly.
Especially because we may not always have PACE in just one building. Like I know last year we did try to have a PACE room in another building, but like it's very possible in the future we will have PACE rooms in other buildings, and it needs to be equitable.
And the elementary schools, if I understand, they already do community lunch. So in principle, it would be possible, that might be one period in which it's also like, hey, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, we
Yeah.
lunch with your buddies.
I
Or
think
some variant of
I
that,
think
and we have
to-
programming around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that I know the board is pushing for this is to have some uniformity, to have some
Yeah.
equity across
Yeah.
elementary schools. And not only that, but have equity within the program, right? Like, one school might be doing a really great job at having, say 4th graders, have an opportunity.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that, we're doing it at all the same somewhere else. So, to have it uniform, to have, a system in place, to have regulations around it, that's really the best way to have a program that is going to be sustainable over years when all of us aren't here in this room and kids get to keep this, both, disabled and non-disabled peers get to forever being part of an inclusion model that is building, emotional and friendship supports. Because that's really what Best Buddies is. It's not really supposed to be an academic program or it's supposed to be building friendships.
Yes.
Like that's the core of Best Buddies. So
Yeah.
let's hope that, I would ask, we have one more meeting?
Yeah, we have a meeting, one more meeting in this committee this school year. And
Yeah.
I think you know what you're about to ask.
But I would ask for the next meeting that we really come back with, like, exactly what the roadmap is. And the meetings have been done. We've done some kind of search to see if we actually have advisors, and our principals have said, it can be done during the school day.
Yes.
Because if it can't be done during the school day, I think we have a host of other issues.
I agree with that 100%.
So, and I'm not saying we can't tackle those, and they may not be, but maybe for the first year, we're looking to do it at a lunchtime. We're looking to do it in a special. We're looking to do it where kids can, be social.
Yeah.
That's where we want to do it.
Yes, strongly agreed, so we are.
And I don't think
reading-
it should just be open to fourth graders. I think it should be open
And
to,
if you roll
I mean, there's
out-
no reason why one
Or
kindergartner
does it
can't be a buddy in
necessarily-
another
No, just get the
kindergarten.
right person.
Oh,
That's
right.
the
But
right
that's
person.
what
Elementary school, maybe rolling it out for elementary school, just to refine it each and every time, so just
But it could be a 6-year-old who has a severely disabled older
but I think that it
It
is
gets it, you know?
so separate anyway.
They do have a, they
Because
do have a
each
match
building will need
program,
its
I mean, they,
own
you don't have to
set of
like,
advisors
don't
and
necessarily have to
and
join
buy-in and
another-
everything like that.
You could join it, like I was.
I think
But I-
then it was
and then it
pilots the inequity
years
again.
and years and years and years.
Yeah, they've been larger
Right.
for quite a while.
And you don't have to have programming for school to be a program, which is not true. You have to put
Already reaching
I
out
was
to someone who's been able
So,
to passing
I guess
is
it's
available.
available.
Yeah, it's not as bad as you would think, just because there are, some nuance or some program in place already that kind of mimics it, it's just not.
So I think, right,
So,
yeah,
but
like
for the-
for here, right, there is.
This is, hey, you're getting more support.
More formality.
Yeah.
That being said, I would say we
It's kind
also
of the most
need
important
to
thing.
look
Get
at
through, right?
traditional
So-
high school and formal high school. Granted, I am just one parent. I can tell you I have 3 kids that have been to George Fisher Middle School, all within having IEPs and disabilities, and 2 currently within high school, and I had another one that's been out of the district. I've never been approached about one of my kids being involved in Best Buddies. It seems to really be if your kid is in PACE, it's open to them. And if your kid is not in PACE, it's not open district-wide, not just within KES, within George Fisher Middle
Oh,
School,
really?
and
Yeah.
within
those are
Carmel High
best buddy
School.
programs, right?
It seems to only be open to our PACE kiddos, and there is a plethora of kids that would benefit from Best Buddies that are not within PACE. I think it's a great opportunity for social skills and very warranted for those students. But I think that there are kids that you might potentially see savings within the district because they might not need more specific programs because they're getting this from the Best Buddies Club, and you
So-
might see them grow.
Can I add one more thing to your list then? Can you get some type of data about who is in our Best Buddies program in our middle
I
school
mean, I
and
can
our high
tell you,
school?
I've never received one
And
where
how-
they've
yeah.
asked me,
And
would
how-
one of your kids
We have an
like to be
advisor.
a Best Buddies?
How is that advisor getting the information out?
Yeah,
What are they
what's the
doing?
marketing
What are they
for-
doing every year? What is the principals doing?
Not
Because we have many, many, many children who don't even have to be classified to, I mean, there are plenty of 504 disabilities that might also want to be part of the Best Buddies
Exactly.
program.
Yeah, I mean, I know-
I mean, you shouldn't need to have an IEP to be a person in need of a friend.
yeah, I know.
Correct.
Sorry.
Right? Yeah, my son certainly of his own initiative reached out about this when he was at George Fisher. I grabbed this was we're coming up on 10 years now, so I know there have been changes since then. And we're specifically told, well, that's for the PACE kids. If you want to join,
Well, what
you know,
is the
you
PACE
will
kid?
assign you a buddy from PACE.
What's
But
the PACE class? Like, why do we
You can-
It's just a special class.
I think because maybe their foundation is intellectual disabilities, that's.
I do think,
That's the
I
genesis
think
of
that's
it.
part of it, but we can definitely get that data, that information, and then see how, again, how we're reaching the other students, because. I
But
mean,
there's no reason why they can't be the buddy.
Well, that's
Like,
what I was, that's what I was.
that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I was.
they
gonna
don't have
share.
to be like they don't. I mean, a lot of times that is what a skilled
Mhm.
person will do is take somebody who also has social
Sure.
issues,
Yeah.
but doesn't have the intellectual disability,
Mhm.
and pair them with somebody with an intellectual disability because then they're both learning, and that's the
Right.
best kind of buddy.
and that's in fact what ended up working with my for my
But that's
Yeah, these
typical in these
social
types of programs.
issues, but not
But not intellectual
He was
disability.
paired with a PACE kid who had very good social skills, but
Had intellectual
and it
skills.
worked out. But that was kind of ad hoc. We need to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mindful of time, since we have negative 3
So
minutes
just
left.
found it on George
Um,
Fisher. It's just like listed as a club.
When
Okay.
this committee is meeting again before the second board meeting of June. By that time, can you guys have met with the principals? principal at least put out feelers, hopefully recruited advisors, and we'll talk about what any blockers to get things done.
Yeah, that'll give us an opportunity to waiting to hear back from me.
Considered a developmental disability.
Okay, great.
I know what I would love to hear about is schools that already have this going. You know,
And
we're-
how?
yeah, because we're talking all about these issues that we're trying to predict, that they've done it.
But if you've already
So
done
let's
it,
just
yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
save
we can,
ourselves.
we can ask our
That would
representative
be
also
fantastic.
if they could put us in contact with anybody.
Thank you,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
All right.
Definitely.
So I think that also covers our last agenda item, which is preparing for our agenda for next meeting.
Yeah.
So with that, any more comments, Trustee Douglas?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Orson? I have no more comments myself. It sounds like when we meet in 4 weeks, we will have a very clear picture of what our options are here. And with that, any further comments from the public, or we will adjourn? All right. So with that, we adjourn the May 26th, 2026 meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.